If you or someone you know has been the victim of nursing home abuse, it can be one of the most tragic and severe and sad types of claims that we handle in our office. We approach these claims with a lot of compassion and a lot of a lot of fight in us, because we know that these people that have been in a nursing home are the most vulnerable, and they're being abused at their most vulnerable time, when they've sought out a place to stay and a place that they think is safe and a place that their family thinks is safe, and they've abused that trust. So there's a few different types of abuse that we'll talk about, and the first one is neglect and abandonment. So this is one of the most common types, where you'll see, somebody has bed sores that lead to even worse problems, or just has really bad bed sores because they've been neglected. They haven't turned them over on the bed. They rely on their caretakers to take care of them, and the caretakers are out, doing whatever else they're doing, watching TV. They're out on a cigarette break forever, and they're never coming back and checking on that person, or they get up to use the bathroom and they fall on the ground and they're there for 2 days. These things are so traumatic for the person involved, and it's because of the neglect and abandonment of the employees of the nursing home. They're not supposed to neglect and abandon the people that you love and the elderly who rely on them in these nursing homes. The second thing is physical abuse. So this one's more straightforward. This is hitting, physically reprimanding the elderly in a nursing home, whether or not it's intentional, but physical abuse, especially when it has a physical manifestation like bruising, swelling, bleeding, scarring, anything like that, that would be physical abuse. There's horrible scenarios of what sometimes the abuse that people have suffered in a nursing home. There's also, unfortunately, sexual abuse that goes on in nursing homes. That's another type of nursing home abuse case, is sexual abuse. So if you can imagine how bad that is, I don't want to go into any details about some of the stuff that we've seen that happens at nursing homes, but it's awful, and the people need to be held accountable. And then finally, there's financial abuse. So the people that are in the nursing homes sometimes have mental issues that keep them from being able to make their own decisions. They have guardians, but sometimes the people in the nursing homes come and take advantage of the elderly by, stealing their money, getting them to sign over bank accounts, getting them to sign powers of attorney, and then going and getting, signing over checks, and it can get really bad. So financial abuse is another type of nursing home abuse that can happen. So these are all things that if you have a loved one in a nursing home, you really want to go in there and check. When you go to see somebody that you love in a nursing home, don't be shy, especially if they're their parent or somebody that's related to you. Look under their clothes and make sure there's no marks and bruises, things like that. Check them for bed sores. Ask them how they're doing. If they have the mental capacity to be able to have that conversation with you. If they don't, make sure that you are checking for all those things. Talk to the staff. See if you feel that there's anything fishy or anything wrong, or there's something weird going on. A lot of times your intuition is right about those kinds of things. So just protect them and look for these kind of signs. Make sure you're keeping an eye on their bank accounts so that their money's not getting stolen, things like that. So if you hire an attorney to handle one of these abuse type claims, what can you expect? So the first thing that we do is, and this isn't necessarily always standard operating procedure for everybody, but we just send a letter to figure out if they have insurance. So there's a Florida statute that allows us to get insurance information. And so that's the first thing we send out to see if we can get a response. If after that, if we've decided to take the case on, we want to get those medical records, hopefully, before we send out the next letter that I'm going to tell you about, called a notice of intent. But we want to take a look at those medical records. So sometimes that if it's a wrongful death case from a nursing home, we have to get an estate set up so that we can have that executor of the estate get the medical records, or the personal representative of the person who passed away, get us those medical records. Even though we don't necessarily have to have an estate to bring the claim, if there's other family members that can do it, it's just more straightforward for us. We like to have the estate set up. We can refer you to great attorneys that can help you set up an estate and do your estate planning and help you take care of probate when somebody's passed away. We don't personally handle that, but it is something that we like to see set up so that we can take the case to the next step, which is our notice of intent. So if we've seen everything there and we go, okay, there's a case, then we send what's called a notice of intent. So in Florida, before you file a lawsuit under Chapter 400 against a nursing home, you have to send them a letter of intent, a notice of intent to initiate litigation. And what that does is once they get that, that starts the clock ticking. There's a 75-day pre-suit period. So they get the letter, they have 75 days. Now, within that 75 days, they can waive the pre-suit period. And if they do, which is very rare, then you can sue them. If they don't waive the pre-suit period, they may ask you to set up a mediation. You can engage in informal discovery during this pre-suit. You can ask them for documents. They can ask you for documents. It allows the parties to do some investigation before you start a lawsuit. Ultimately, though, at the end of that, if it doesn't get resolved, you file a lawsuit against the nursing home, and now you're in litigation. Now we actually get to go take real depositions, we get to do real discovery, and we get to maybe even take that case to trial. Hopefully, it doesn't go to trial. Hopefully the nursing home or whoever's responsible does the right thing, but sometimes the cases have to go to trial, and that's the process that you have to follow in order to get there. It's important in these cases to understand that we're going to ask for a lot of information, and it's not to pry into your elderly parent or whoever's been abused in a nursing home. It's not to pry into their history or anything like that, but we need to know certain details about what happened to them, and especially when it's a sexual abuse case, it can get very very tough for the person to answer those questions. But we've got experience doing it. We try to do it in such a way that that we're sympathetic and that we handle you with a lot of care and love, because we know that person's been through a lot. We need to know things like, do you have health insurance, or did the deceased person have health insurance? Because health insurance companies are entitled to get paid back. So we're going to make a claim to health insurance, and out of the nursing home settlement or whatever happens, we're going to have to pay that health insurance company back. And then hopefully we can mediate that claim within the first 30 to 75 days of having it, and we can settle that claim without ever having to file a lawsuit. But that's generally the process. If you have any questions, if somebody that has been the victim of abuse, or if you think you've been the victim of abuse in a nursing home, you can call my law firm. We will give you a free consultation. We'll talk to you. We'll ask you to give us records that we can look at. We'll try to dig in deeper for you if we think there's something there. And it's completely free to you. So call us day or night, no risk, risk-free, no obligation consultation, no fees to you unless you win your case. You'll never owe us anything unless you win your case. So, there's really no good reason not to call us if you think there's been something going on at a nursing home and somebody suffered some pretty significant injuries because of it.